All right, the Battlefield 6 campaign just wrapped up for me. I just finished it. It took me about 5 hours, almost on the spot. And in terms of time and length, I wouldn't take my experience into consideration because I make content, right? Obviously, and I tell the story of the games and we dive deep into some of the lore. Because of that, when I play one of these campaigns, my main objective is just to understand the story and play through the main things. I'm not trying to get collectibles. I'm not trying to explore side activities that much. So if I wasn't making content and if you play on a very hard difficulty and you take your time to explore everything and try to find all the little collectibles, you could probably squeeze about 7 to 8 hours into the campaign. I really, truly believe that. So that's more in line, I think, with what an average casual experience would be in the campaign. Now, the story felt great because it felt very Battlefield. It had explosions. It had great set pieces. It had chaos all over the map. Every mission felt chaotic, different, and it was like a new area to explore. I really, really liked it. I really liked the set pieces and everything that was going on around the world. If you're playing with headphones, I mean, it just sounds crazy. If you have them headphones blasting and you're just in the zone, it feels like you're in a war zone in the game, right? It really captures the idea of that, I think, in a really cool and interesting way. The sound design is very, very good, and I like it. Now, with that being said, the missions were very big. Now, some people might say that they felt like open combat missions from MW3, and the only reason that I compare it to that is because that's what people are running with. But if you really sit back and think about it, Battlefield has always had bigger open mission design. So that's nothing new. But I will say this, in my experience playing Battlefield campaigns, this campaign felt the most smooth in terms of like, go here, go there, go here, go there, and that's it. Like checkpoint, checkpoint, checkpoint. And I actually like that. I don't necessarily like sometimes when it's too open-ended or there's a lot of different things going on. I kind of like when it just tells me, okay, go here and go there, and that's it, right? And it felt more linear, and I really liked that. I really had a good time with that feeling of the campaign. And I will only say that none of them felt overwhelming. They took me about 30, 40 minutes to complete, almost per mission. Some were like 20 minutes, depending on how quickly you got through them. The only missions that felt like a slog, that felt like, oh my God, this is just, I could tell maybe that you guys ran out of time and you just made a really big ass map and told us to do these things just to fucking do it, just to kill and burn some time. Because the last two missions were about 30 minutes, 35 minutes each at least. They weren't as fun as the rest of the 7 missions before that, okay? The characters that you play as Dagger 1-3, a Marine Raiders unit with the first ever female Marine Raider in it. And honestly, I liked the characters. I liked Murphy, I liked Lopez, I liked Gecko, I loved Haas, the leader. The team was fun. The team was interesting. I felt for them. I felt connected to them. Some stuff happened where I got emotional. I enjoyed Dagger 1-3. And I feel that they all played their roles well. Murphy played his role well. Lopez did. Gecko did as well. I didn't get the sense of them trying to do something with a character or including a character just because they felt they needed to. I never got that feeling. I felt that every character served a purpose, and I really liked them. And honestly, I liked Gecko a lot. I thought she did a wonderful job in this story. Now, that leads you to the villain. What about the character? The villain of the game that we know is Pax Armada, and Kincaid is supposedly one of their leaders. The villain was extremely weak, and I'm talking about organization-wise, and I'm talking about character leader-wise. It was so underwhelming, so lackluster, just a weak villain. On a personal level, I never really understood kind of how the conflict started, or I didn't really care everything was just kind of happening very quickly, and I wasn't understanding their full motivations. Not a lot of things were explained for Pax Armada. Now, when I go and tell the story, I'm going to look more into it. I'm going to have to go through my footage and see certain things that I might have missed. But the villain was just overall weak, and that is something to call out because I noticed it. When I reached the end of the game, I was like, oh, that's it? That's fucking it. So he wasn't all that great, and the organization, honestly, Pax Armada got built up to be this big thing in the marketing of the campaign, but they honestly weren't that interesting or good. Now, the influences of the game were very prevalent in my opinion. Now, the one that I saw specifically was Special Ops Lioness. Now, that is one of the inspirations and influences that the developers talked about having when they were crafting this story. And I could see it. I saw Special Ops Lioness in this game so much. I saw it with the CIA handler Mills, and I saw it with Gecko a lot. Like, if you have not seen Special Ops Lioness, you should watch it, and then you should like see this game or play this game again, and you're gonna see the influences that are there. Some of the mission designs, like with the drones and stuff, felt like straight out of Special Ops Lioness. And honestly, I think that's fine. I think Special Ops Lioness is a pretty good military show. I like it. There's some things I didn't like, as we talked about in my review of it. Earlier, I mentioned that the villain was very weak, and I think that was because the campaign moved extremely fast. I felt like there wasn't enough cutscenes. I felt there wasn't enough world building, not enough information. I feel like if you would have taken the time to craft a cutscene showing us Pax Armada talking with Kincaid, one of their leaders, and showing them go into a place and then we go after them, or maybe another cutscene that sets up the story of one of our characters and Kincaid, you know, their relationship that they had in the past. I felt like there wasn't enough. I felt like we were moving from one thing to another very, very, very quickly. Like maybe something tragic happened, and then we were just boom in the next thing that was days later or something like that. There wasn't enough buildup. It didn't take the time to just slow down a little bit and show us this and show us that and build it up. It felt like it was running through it because it needed to get done. That's the feeling that I got. And I could tell that the game was rushed. I could tell that the campaign was rushed, and it was very prevalent in the way that the campaign was moving and the way that the beats of the story were hitting. They weren't taking their time. I honestly feel that there was a lot of potential for something very good here, but the developers just didn't have enough time. They didn't have enough time to execute the vision that they wanted. I mean that in like the best way. I had fun. I had a good time playing the campaign. It was enjoyable. It made me laugh a little bit. It made me get a little emotional. It made me say, God damn, like it was fun. It was exciting. But I could tell that it was missing something. I could tell that it needed just a bit more, right? And that goes back to the report that we had gotten a few months ago that the campaign was just not in a good place, that it would benefit if the campaign was delayed a few months. And honestly, I wish they would have done that so they could have really executed their vision, because the potential was there. They laid out the groundwork. They had an interesting team in Dagger 1-3, and they could have just done so much more, and they didn't. And I really freaking dislike that. I also noticed that the game lacked polish. It didn't feel finished in some areas. Now, I did play on a base PS5. I also did play on performance mode, so no quality enhancements or anything like that. But with some of the games that we've gotten recently, where I've played in performance mode, the game is just finished and it feels much better. Like, I'm gonna say Ghost of Yote. That game is fucking gorgeous, and the game looks finished. It looks like it got the polish that it needed before it released. Battlefield 6 feels like a game that wasn't able to get the polish it needed, and so some of the characters look soft and blurry, and some of the things around the world don't look as good as they should. There's some sections that look beautiful, and then there's some sections that look a little fucked up. Again, that just is sadly due to the game or the developers being rushed with this campaign, having to meet that deadline and not having enough time to work on it. The ending of the game sets up a potential DLC or sets up a sequel more than likely. Now, I would love for them to continue the story of Dagger 1-3 and see what they continue to find out in their search for the people behind Pax Armada and everything that it might lead to. Now, I can't really say much else without diving into spoiler territory here. So yeah, the game kind of sets up a sequel or maybe even a DLC. Now, I say DLC because Battlefield isn't a game that's going to be releasing every single year, right? That's not something that they're doing yet. And because of that, they can continue to do their Battle Royale stuff. They continue to do their multiplayer stuff. But I think that the people working on the campaign should get some time to work on a DLC that's maybe 2 hours long and continues the story and potentially puts an end to it or sets up the sequel. But at least we get a little bit more in the DLC. I think a DLC would be great because they will be able to maybe take their time a little bit more and expand the world a bit more. I think there's potential in the campaign, and I don't want them just to abandon it. I don't want them just to give up on it. I really hope that that's something they can continue to do. Now, one of the biggest and most important things I think about a game like Battlefield, that's a first-person military shooter, and a game like Call of Duty, when you play the campaign and you play the story, and that's the main thing that you want from the game, you have to ask yourself, does this game have replayability? replayability for me. Are some of these missions good enough that I can go back and replay them and try them out in different ways and continue to get fun out of it, continue to get something out of the campaign? I will use Modern Warfare 2 as an example from 2022. I think that game has so many missions that can be replayed on their own, and Modern Warfare 3, for example, doesn't. I personally feel like Battlefield 6 has a lot of replayability when it comes to most of the missions. I think you could go into New York and do some of those missions time and time again and continue to have fun and continue to see different things, try out different buildings, try out different techniques. I think you could go to Egypt and have the tank fights and do them differently. There's so many different night raids and just different ways of doing the missions that I think there's a lot of replayability. Again, the missions do lack polish. In some areas, you can tell they just look very bad, but for the most part, I think you could get a lot out of it. Now, overall, the campaign, in my opinion, is worth playing. There's some good stuff there, and if you do take your time and you enjoy story modes and you enjoy military focus campaigns, then I think you'll like this one. And maybe not because the story is also great, but because there's some moments. Some of the cutscenes look fantastic. Some of the story and the acting by the actors that are in the game is very, very good. A lot of things are open-ended, like I said, but overall it's good enough to keep you entertained. But what really sells the game, honestly, what really sells this campaign is the gameplay. The missions are just very big, crazy, chaotic, and fun. And at the end of the day, if you're having fun, then why wouldn't it be worth it? And I will go back and replay some missions. I will go back and experience some of the missions with you guys together. I think the campaign is worth it. But sadly, the campaign isn't as good as it should have been. This campaign should have been way better. If I give this campaign, and I don't like doing ratings, but if I give this campaign a 7, it should have been a fucking 10. It should have been a 9.5 because it set up a great foundation and it didn't have the time to build it. It didn't have the time to really dig deep into the story. I think right at the half part of the game, something happens that I thought was weak. I thought, you know what, there wasn't enough buildup for this. And I didn't like that. I didn't like how the villain is handled. I didn't like how the big Pax Armada thing is handled because you could tell they were rushing to the finish line because they had a fucking deadline. So that sucks. I do like the Battlefield 6 campaign. I do think that you should give it a shot, but it's not as good as it should have been. I hope that in the next game in Battlefield 7 or in a potential DLC for this, they're able to take their time and continue the story a little bit better. The seeds for greatness are there. They just have to execute it better. And I think that they can do it. I really, truly think they can do it. They just need to want to do it. So let me know how you guys are going with the Battlefield 6 campaign. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you're enjoying it and having a good time.